Hello and welcome. I'm Susan Saravo, your host for this roundtable discussion, Beyond the Sensor, How Collaboration is Scaling LiDAR Technology. Let's welcome our panel, John Kaya, CEO of HyPoint Solutions, a real-time measurement company in height detection for vehicles. Billy Evers, VP of Sales and Marketing of Seyond, a global leader in the solid-state LiDAR market, and William Corns, CEO of US LiDAR, a leading distribution and integration partner for the LiDAR industry. John, we'll start with you. Before we get into what HyPoint actually does, I understand that LiDAR is not new to you. In fact, how you got to where you are and how you met your business partner, Mitch, is an interesting story. Could you tell us a little bit about where you started and more about the HyPoint origin story?
Yeah, so my origin goes back a little bit. So I started my military career when I was in the Army. Our job was a truck driver. Basically, our job was to get out there and make sure we knew the height of our tallest vehicle and the lowest clearance of whatever route we were on. But the whole idea is we don't want to stop any vehicle when we're in a convoy or moving anything. When I get out, the military, I did join a small engineering firm called Manley Communications. It allowed us to do some testing with new sensors. And one of them we were doing was just a static laser, one laser down, one laser up, put it on the back of a hitch of a vehicle, and you drive underneath the bridge structure. And you get that very accurate point of height, but it was only a single point. We got introduced to LiDAR through an interesting couple of Validine, who was an early leader in LiDAR creation. And the owner of our company went up to him and said, "Hey, listen, we're out mapping the roads or driving the roads. What if we took that sensor, orientated slightly different? So we're creating this point cloud as we drive down the road." Eventually, we integrated that and started doing statewide LiDAR, millions of points per second as we're driving down the road, creating a digital twin of the environment. And what we're doing there was we're doing accurate placements with the signs or the guardrails, but also getting the vertical clearance accurately so we can confidently route vehicles on the road, knew what lane is the lowest lane of clearance, or even horizontal lanes of clearance, or even Department of Defense clearances. Over the years, we've seen the progress of the LiDAR go, these really big, heavy sensors, very costly. But other markets are adopting them very quickly. The autonomous vehicle markets are putting them into cars, the military applications. So lucky for us, who had a kind of a unique niche, wanted to bring this to transportation. All these other markets are driving the price down, the quality of the sensors down, the reliability meant to be run 24/7. And now we're taking that and applying these to these different applications.
Well, that's fascinating. Thank you so much for explaining all of that to us, John. Now let's move to Billy. You have spent a fair amount of time in the LiDAR industry. What brought you to this market?
So I was looking for a different avenue. Before, I'd spent 15 years in the industrial automation market, and I wanted something that was not operating just inside of a factory or on a manufacturing line. And when I got introduced to the idea of LiDAR, I was aware of 2D LiDAR. And then when I found out that this was getting close to 5 years ago, that there were actual devices that created full three-dimensional, basically using more than just one single laser point, I was very fascinated. And then as I got deeper into the technology and I realized the scope of what was looking to be used with LiDAR as far as autonomous robotics, autonomous cars, and then it started branching out even further. I could probably say I was hooked at that point just because it's a very emerging technology and the growth sector for it is unmatched right now from a lot of things in the technology market. So ultimately, seeing the opportunity for LiDAR and seeing the growth and the expansion into other markets, I kind of fell in love with it, and thus has been the story for the last 4.5 or so years.
Just like John and Billy, I spent a lot of time in adjacent industry. I was in imaging industry, kind of like Billy, in the automation sector. And funny story is I actually built a qualification system for Velodyne back in the day. And this is maybe 16, 17 years ago in their San Jose office.
Well, let's go to you now. Why US LiDAR and why now?
I did some research. I looked at how the market is working out there with the different players as far as like manufacturers and distributors and systems integrators, et cetera. And kind of analogous to the machine vision industry that I came from and spent 20 plus years in, there's a definite need for it. And you need somebody that's not just going to take something and sell it and put their margin on it, but you need somebody that's going to have some intelligence, be able to talk customers through what the application is and figure out what the LiDAR, what the correct LiDAR is going to be for them, how to put the other pieces of the puzzle together, the software, the compute stack, the analytics, et cetera. And that's what we do is we put either the pieces or all of the pieces together into a solution.
Thank you so much, Will. Okay, John, I have a series of questions for you. Why LiDAR versus camera, radar, and other sensing technology? What tipped the scales?
We use the LiDAR for slightly different applications sometimes in transportation, but you're right, it's going against these competing technologies. It's kind of what Billy mentioned, what the LiDAR provides to us is true 3D geometry of an object. So we can really look at if it's for compliance, we're looking at the width, height, and length. But we're also getting this really detailed point cloud that we can start asking questions of, like how many axles, what is the axle spacing? And so when we started adding other pieces of information, like what is the weight at a scale, we can look at how is that weight distributed, by how many axles, and what is the actual length of that kingpin back. If we look at things like for overheight detection, the LiDAR does a really good job from multiple lanes at highway speeds, be able to get really accurate measurements. Where something like camera, it does a pretty good job if the lighting's really good, but it has a difficult job sometimes accurately measuring if there's like a regular oversized load or something really unique. So it's really depending, cameras are really depending on this AI training of seeing, I think this is what the truck looks like. This is a truck, like for vehicle classification. And the further away the distance from the camera you get, the less accurate, the less pixels we're getting. So now we're doing more of an estimate of the size, and anything irregular, it may not pick up. If there's something unique pointing up that really will hit that structure. Where the point cloud, it doesn't matter the light, time of day, the fog, snow, the glare, dirty lenses. We fight through that to create this really accurate point cloud. And then we ask the questions, what is the highest point? What is the longest point? What is the actual dimensions of this? So it really gives us that true 3D object that we're trying to measure instead of doing comparison. And something like radar does a good job of something like maybe speed and direction, but it's not going to give us like a classification or exactly dimensions of the vehicle either. So people who really want that high level of accuracy, they're moving towards the need for something like LiDAR.
John, can you explain more about where other types of sensors would fall short for the specific use case?
Yeah, there's a new use case we're doing right now for truck park spacing. So it's where the rest areas where the over highway truckers are coming. More and more state DOTs are wanting to broadcast or advertise how many open spaces there are, because if there are time restrictions, how long the truckers could be on the road, and they need to plan accurately where they can get off and rest. And so they're using technology in the past, so they're putting like magnets in the pavement itself. So if a truck is over a magnet, we know something's there. But with that technology, what we're seeing is, one, it's in the pavement, which we don't want to get. And two, it's not as accurate and it's battery operated. So if they fail, we're actually having to rip it up. So they started to go to technology like radar, and radar does a pretty good job, as we said, detecting motion, but not always in the direction of the motion. So there's maintenance trucks going out of the rest area, coming in and maybe counting incorrectly what it is. Or, and a lot of times the trucks will just park anywhere on the side or the shoulder. And if they park under a radar, the radar goes, I don't know what's going on anymore. If there's something in there, I don't know if it's moving. I can't count anything else going by me at this time. With the LiDAR, since we're already, in this use case, we're already used to doing what lane and what area of interest we're scanning. So when we can see the direction of a vehicle when it comes in their area of interest, we can see if it stays in our area of interest, so we won't count it as it goes into the rest area into a parking spot. But if it does, one's parked underneath us, but one is traveling by it, we still can count that accurately. So that's an example of the radar being kind of a good use case of only if we know we need to count something moving, but we don't need to know the direction necessarily. But the LiDAR giving that extra detail and resolution we need.
So, what would you say LiDAR has unlocked that just wasn't possible before?
It's the 3D accuracy on the dimensions and the direction and speed. So it's where each one of these other sensors maybe give you one of those things, the LiDAR will give you all of them.
LiDAR, it's not as I guess finicky, for lack of a better term, is the other technologies, right? The other technologies, like if you're using camera or if you're using radar or something else, the environmental constraints really play a big factor into that.
That's a great point. Well, the cameras really rely on the lighting conditions. LiDAR looks the same at midnight as it does during the noon.
I think one other thing that we haven't really touched on that's I think is very important is even in the last couple years, let's say the last 3 years, the average cost of a LiDAR sensor has dropped significantly. And that's because the manufacturers are finding better, more economical ways to design the sensors to keep the high performance and to keep the cost heading in basically to where it's more affordable so that people can use this technology in a whole wide array of applications. Because I would say 3 years ago, the average LiDAR sensor being sold in the market was probably close to 20K. Therefore, things like this weren't very possible. And now that solid state has come as far as it has over the last couple of years, it's made applications like this not just possible, but very, very real. And now you can build them out in numbers because of the cost.
All right, let's move on to our next question. And this one is for Billy. Why Seyond and US LiDAR? Why did you decide to work with US LiDAR?
We were looking for a partner that was knowledgeable but yet capable, meaning we wanted someone that understood the market, but then we wanted someone that was capable enough, like Will mentioned earlier, to be able to support customers from knowing the industry, understanding the sensor space, and then being able to support it. It was a pretty easy decision.
This next question is for Will, and the question is, why did you choose to put the Hummingbird sensor in front of John's company, HyPoint? Why did you think that would be a good fit?
It was a good fit for multiple reasons. One, and this is typical with a lot of applications, right? It comes down to size, point cloud density, data accuracy, and then also ultimately cost, right? And HighPoint was in this transition phase where one sensor was being obsoleted from another manufacturer. They needed something that was going to replace it. And Xeon was coming out with the Hummingbird. We decided to put it in front of HighPoint. We got them a unit for testing, and Mitch and John tested it and was like, "This is it." So maybe I'll kick it over to John.
When we got the sensor in the Hummingbird, we quickly realized not only would it replace this application, we actually can use this for these other applications we're doing. And was really excited about all the same things, the same form factor. You know, when we're putting things on the side of the road, we're trying to make it very efficient and easy to mount. The power requirements fit right in what we were already doing. So quickly we could swap out the other sensor we were doing and put it in. And the cost was extremely competitive for us to be able to use and be right back, not having to raise costs. In fact, being even more cost competitive than the sensor we were using before.
John, I also want to ask you, are you now able to offer something that competitors can't?
So we've already developed our software to go through the filtering, the machine vision learning to get the outputs we need. But now finding a dedicated partner in the US is another big deal for us. So the speed to market, the cost to market, and the time zones support is huge for us and for our market against our competition.
As you guys were testing the Hummingbird, how were you guys able to maybe find other uses for that other than just what we originally thought it was going to be as a replacement for the obsolete sensor?
Yeah, we had other sensors that we were using already or testing for these other applications. A lot of times we're testing these other sensors because of the cost. Like the other sensor we were previously using was just too expensive for these other applications. So when we got the Hummingbird in, like we said, not only was it satisfying the one we needed, which was for the overheight detection and vehicle classification, because of the cost competitiveness, we could start using for other applications like wrong way detection,
Mm.
going truck parking and analytics, some traffic analytics, speed and lane monitoring. So we started like, wait a minute, this is for us to be able to build a platform or these other applications around a single sensor with a single partner. It's a big advantage for us.
There were a lot of question marks for quite a few years when an application was being presented to whoever it may be, especially if you're talking about DOTs. That one of their big concerns is like, look, this sensor has to survive and live in the elements. And there was a lot of question marks when it came to spinning technology because, over time it does get beaten down. That's just the basic of it. That's the basic principles of the spinning technology. And solid
Mhm.
state offers a much more robust option, especially in those environments.
Well, Seyond did a great job in designing that unit. I mean, you put a Hummingbird in your hand, you know that that thing is going to survive a beating. And I know, John, you guys put it into your own housing and utilize it in a different way and make it even more environmentally hardened. But that Hummingbird on its own is a beast. Like you can put it on an AMR, you can put it on an end effector on a robot or out in the elements, right? What John's doing.
Okay, our next question is why are more companies like HyPoint turning to LiDAR today versus a few years ago?
Cost ultimately has prohibited a lot of companies to be able to offer solutions in a scalable fashion. And now that now that that actual technology, the cost has been driven down, it can be offered in not just specialized cases, but now it can be more widespread and as an everyday use device for a lot of these applications that people never even thought about LiDAR before, just simply because of the cost. I think that's a major factor in this whole situation.
I think you're right, Billy, and that's something in the industry that we see quite a bit is that the automotive is driving the volume, which allows production costs to come down. And anytime that you have that production cost coming down, you're able to hit other markets or utilize this. We saw the same thing in the imaging world, right? Is you start you take a camera from $10,000 and you drive it down to $350, $400, and all of a sudden it becomes useful in a lot of other applications.
Where we're looking at we're putting them on streetlights, power poles, overhead sign structures. Just
Buildings.
yeah, we just had the flexibility because the range and the resolution of these sensors allows a lot of flexibility where we're putting them. And because of the power requirements are coming down and the size, we're putting them on mobile trailers, portable trailers now, solar powered trailers.
Let's talk more now about collaboration. So, how important is it to work with a partner like US LiDAR Technologies in successful deployments?
For us, this is exactly what we've been looking for is a US based partner that not only can provide a reliable LiDAR sensor to us, but as you were mentioning, we can go beyond that, can start actually putting together the other components, doing testing before we get to even to the point potentially doing almost the full build for us when we put an order in.
Okay, and this next question is for Billy. What value does US LiDAR bring Seyond as a distribution and integration partner?
Yeah, in essence, the value that they offer is a huge extension to my current team. Their reach, their ability to support the customer base that they develop, that they go after, and even to take burden off of us because as we continue to scale as a company, you don't want to just hire a small army for support and to hit the field. And US LiDAR takes a lot of that load off of us.
You guys are moving so fast and taking over so much of the market share. And you can only do that with trying to train in-house people so much, right? And if you don't have good partners, good customers, the food chain, you're as strong as your weakest link, right? So, for US LiDAR, that's what we try and do is we try and treat everybody like our customer, right? And customer service is kind of one of those dead things where everybody self-administers. I mean, look at the way that we buy our commercial products or, our consumer products. Um, when you're dealing with something that's heavy on the tech, and High Point and us have gone back and forth about different things that come up, bugs and overheating and all that kind of stuff, and like, how do you get this little piece of data? We step in.
Let's take a look into the future. And where do you see LiDAR in the next 2 to 3 years?
The pace of the technology overall advancements in this sector it's nothing like I've ever seen before. What people in this industry are going to have to understand is that you need to be a little bit flexible with how you design things, because you never know, in a year or year and a half down the road, the sensor that's waiting to be updated could help enhance your application even more. So don't get into the mindset of like, well, this is firm, this is a 5 year design, because unfortunately in this space, if you're living with that mindset, you're going to kind of get left behind. If you're doing something and you're refreshing it about every 3 to 5 years, this industry is moving at a much faster pace than that.
3, 4 years is going to be expected. They're just going to be like, yeah, well, what LiDAR version do you have? Like, what is your application that you're bringing? It's no longer going to be, do you have a camera or a radar? It might be a mix of technologies that they want. Like, there's still advantages for imaging, like for LPR, USDOT, but they're going to want to combine with like the accuracy of the point cloud.
For your industry, John, you're out in the public eye, and a lot of the DOTs, municipalities, they still have to comply to the GDPR compliance, right? So if you're, and that's one thing, one of the benefits about LiDAR is you don't have to, it doesn't pull any facial features or anything like that that are going to identify somebody.
That's a great point. That's a very hot topic with many of my agencies right now, that they swung one way to these cameras that were tracking LPR, pedestrian movements. Is definitely swinging the other way, where people are like, no, you can no longer use that in our communities. We need something. We still want that level of accuracy of what's moving, but not to the, like you were mentioning, to the specific ID of the vehicle or ID of the person.
So, what applications are you seeing start to emerge now?
These use cases of the overheight detection, the vehicle compliance, classification, truck parking, wrong way detection, all of those were in the past are using some different type of technologies that we are bringing the LiDAR to, and we're seeing them move over to this type of thing with us. So we see that, and I'm excited to learn. Like, the truck parking was something that was new to me. I didn't know that was even a use case, that was a problem statement. I think the more and more we're getting this type of data set in front of our agencies, we're going to see more use cases come out of it.
If you took that mobile unit and you were able to deploy it at a crash site to watch traffic trajectory during, accidents or anything like that, like, you could feed that data back to the DOT immediately, and they could start rerouting traffic on the fly.
I'm going to take a general overview of the market about this question, is that you got autonomous vehicles. So the automotive industry, right, implementing LiDAR sensors so that making it more realistic for cars to drive themselves. Then you have the robotics sector, in warehousing and logistics, automated forklifts, last mile delivery robots. Like, those are all great. Those are great markets, but we're seeing a massive insurgence of interest and a widespread adoption of LiDAR in this whole sector that John operates in, that we like to refer to kind of as the smart city and smart spaces. That covers infrastructure, anything related to traffic, perimeter security, whether you're talking about around the stadiums and parking venues, or even inside the stadiums to enhance the crowd flow monitor. The expansion of LiDAR is rather honestly, it's kind of amazing right now to see this industry sector kind of move, not just heavy into automotive and only into robotics, but it's like expanding a lot into a whole set of applications that I don't think people originally intended for LiDAR to fit into.
We're seeing it even in logistics, transportation and logistics, being able to do volumetric data on the packages that are getting loaded into trailers, all the way through to end effectors, and looking at maybe an engine block and they want to see the profile or the holes that are open for piston placement and things like that. You're going to see it come down in cost. You're going to see it be more readily available, and you're going to see it become more accurate and better quality. So, and that's happening almost on a daily basis, right? So from traffic security, robotics, et cetera, we're even seeing it a lot of times on transportation in the sky, which is becoming a big area where traffic on the streets is becoming congested, and there's only so much you can do, but you take to the skies and now you can transport a lot of people quicker. And we're really seeing that start to come alive as well.
Now we have some questions for Will, specifically about US LiDAR. Why did you just decide to start this company, and what void does it fill in the industry?
I was very curious what the kind of the food chain was looking like as far as distribution, system integration, value added reseller, et cetera. And once I started investigating it, and I was asking customers, like, hey, what happens when you place an order, or how do you get in touch with people, and seeing how big automotive is and the volumes that they look at, everybody else kind of like just takes a back seat. So I like those industries because we can bring something very unique, a lot of good customer service, a very technical product, and just making it readily available, right? And if we can do those things well, we're gonna win and help guys like John.
So, Will, how would you describe the value that US LiDAR brings to the manufacturers and their partners?
I think it's reach and also experience, right? This is not my first rodeo. I ran a an imaging company that did exactly this for the imaging sector. And that experience is being able to take all these different disparate technologies and put them all together for a full solution. That's one of our biggest values, and being able to provide customers great technical support and customer service. You get a live person when you call, and you get quick turnaround. So it's pretty easy to win right now.
Not everybody in this space is providing good support. And I think that's a massive understatement for Will talking about being there for the customers and giving quick responses. I think that's, and when I come, I know when I met with my team and we were talking just recently, that was the number one thing I highlighted to them is like, you know what? You know where we're going to win? You're going to win off support because unfortunately, and fortunately, because if you're providing good support, it's great. But unfortunately, in the space, that's not a common thing. Good support is not common.
What made this collaboration actually work for you and your companies?
It's the understanding of what we're trying to get done. Somebody who we can talk to that's providing really good sensors that we're getting for the Hummingbird and the other sensors that wherever this coming down the line, kind of getting that sneak peek of what is coming down the horizon of some of these things that we can maybe get in the front of. Trying to get that feedback loop back to the group of what we're trying to get done and what are the applications we may be trying to work on, and is there a solution we can build together.
With Seyond, we have a very open policy. We have a very collaborative environment where I work with all of Billy's team, and we can talk about applications, we can talk about customer pain points, and we can talk about how we're going to solve this together. And especially their tech team, right? Like I'm on text message with a lot of the guys.
When I know he reaches out to me and he says, "Hey, but no, I need you to help me. Like we got an issue right now." It's like, okay,
Mitch
so
needs a
then
sensor right now.
so we get it done and we make sure it happens. That's why we have stock. That's why the U.S. the Seyond has the largest support team that's outside of China. Like we're the LiDAR company that prides ourselves on support, and then we keep stock.
So, what advice would you give someone who's just starting their journey into the LiDAR ecosystem?
Anyone trying to come into the space or trying to look into LiDAR sensors, make sure you do your due diligence about the company and their support level. Make sure whether it's 5 sensors, 50 sensors, 500 sensors, 5,000 sensors, make sure they're going to give you support no matter what, because that's not fluid support across companies in this space is not common.
Choose your expectations wisely. Like if you have an expectation that you're going to just deploy a piece of software and connect a sensor and have it work right out of the box, there's a lot of nuance in this industry. Just be prepared that it's going to be probably over budget and take you twice or three times as long to get into it, especially if this is your first time. The great thing about this technology is a lot of universities are starting to put this into their robotics program or their programming software suites and automation labs. I'll make a little plug for Seyond. There is a special discount for universities, so go check their website. It's substantial.
Okay, well, that wraps it up for this panel discussion. Thank you so much for joining us, John, Billy, and Will. If anybody wants to contact you, where do they find you?
John,
You
kick us off.
yeah, I was going to say for Sion, you can go to our website. We do have a contact us tab there. That's the easiest way, or even LinkedIn's a good way to look us up, send us a message.
Yeah,
John?
for us, same thing, highpointsolutions.com. We do have a LinkedIn space, or please contact Billy or Will and talk more about what we do.
Yeah. For US LiDAR, you can go to us-lidar.com, or you can always reach me at wcorns@us-lidar.com. Look forward to speaking with you and talking about your applications. Thanks everybody for being here. Susan, thank you so much for hosting this. I really appreciate it. John, amazing as always. And Billy, love you, man. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
that.
Thanks, Susan. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.